The war between Hellscream's forces and the Alliance was not going well. Perhaps more accurately, it was not going anywhere. A brutal, grinding stalemate ground out across the planet as both sides bled into each other for little gain. An island was discovered amidst the shifting quakes just off the coast of Stormwind City itself. Hellscream's forces immediately realized what having a port right off enemy shores would mean, and so did the Alliance. Both sides sent their primary fleets here, though neither fared particularly well and, in some cases, didn't return at all. It was down to 2 veterans to lead fresh recruits and armed champions on mercenary ships hired to ferry them to the islands. One of these ships was actually crewed by a familiar mercenary band we last saw on the Grizzly Hills of Northrend. On the side of Hellscream was Legionnaire Nazgrim. Nazgrim was actually a veteran of the Northrend campaign, having served under the warmonger Krenna before she was deposed by her sister. Nazgrim was a hardline loyalist to the throne, whoever sat upon it. For the Alliance, they had Captain Taylor, a man who didn't have much distinguishment in his career, but was known for knuckling down and getting things done when situations got rough. Both sailed towards the island, and both were taken by the squid kraken, Azumat, which destroyed their ship as it had so many others, and left them plummeting into the deeps. The Naga were rapidly upon them, eager to add them to the pile of new slaves. At the last second, the drowning champions were saved by the assistance of Aronak Stonespeaker, a broken shaman of the Earthen Ring. Champions Taylor and Nazgrim worked alongside what few survivors they could find, and the shaman Aronak, to do what they could. Aronak wove a ritual blessing for the group, granting them the ability to swim much faster as well as breathe underwater. Both of these would prove critical in the coming days. These efforts were for naught, as the Naga soon mounted a solid offensive and successfully stole the crew away, and if not for exceptionally good fortune and timing, they would be slaves again. But Earthen Ring reinforcements intercepted the captors and rescued the crew. A full play-by-play of the events that followed would take some time, as a lot happened in a very short period. The combined champion forces would spend the next several long, brutal days of their lives constantly on the back foot. Every safe haven they find gets raided. Every strike comes with casualties. They were fighting the Naga on their home turf, and they were losing. The only reason the Naga didn't completely sweep the champions is because they were actually in the middle of their own wars at the time, although one had just concluded. Just prior to the arrival of the champions, the Naga had fought a protracted battle against a large Kvaldir force that sought to claim the ruined city of Vashj'ir for their own. The Naga required the aid of Azumat and his Naraki escorts to finally win that particular conflict, aided by the battle maiden Narjira. But the Kvaldir were just a prelude. The Naga had their sights set on larger prize, and they were busy corrupting nearby ancients with the aid of their old god allies, infiltrating the massive creatures and constructing entire edifices inside. With all these powers at their disposal, they were prepared to launch their true objective, the capture and enslavement of Neptulon, the Tide Lord. Now, you might reasonably wonder, why? After all, weren't the elements servitors of the old gods? Well, no, not really. Ragnaros had pledged his Fire Lords to the cause, and some of the air elementals stayed loyal, but that was it for large-scale support. Everything else was at the individual level, and Neptulon was not a fan of old gods or Naga. And if one remembers, the Naga ever vied with Neptulon for mastery over the seas. Fortunately, both Captain Taylor and Legionnaire Nazgrim were able to relink up with their respective navies and bring reinforcements in the form of a battle submarine, which helped them push through the Naga lines until they were fighting at the very edge of the Abyssal Maw, the plane of water itself. Neptulon took the field, believing this to be yet another foolish ploy by the Naga, and was attacked and staggered for his arrogance. Aronak, weary, was about to tell the champions they needed to go see Thrall and the rest of the Earthen Ring when he too was grabbed and dragged to the depths. Not Champion, nor Taylor, nor Nazgrim were willing to abandon the shaman who had saved their lives so many times, and thus descended into the dark themselves. Therein was the Throne of Tides, one of Neptulon's main fortifications, now completely overrun by the Naga and their old god ilk. Commander Ulthok, the festering priest, is a truly ancient and skilled Naraki and the coordinator for this entire operation. It was he who placed the mindbender Gersha upon Aronak to convert and control the powerful shaman. Though the champions were able to free him, Aronak would take months to recover. The team forced their way towards the Lady Najjar, the mastermind behind the efforts to claim Azumot. Considering she had chased the Tidehunter to this very throne, she was doing quite well, but sadly for her, she was not prepared for direct combat and was slain. This just left Azumot, already a tremendously powerful creature imbued with the might of the old gods. Azumot was able to corrupt and twist the waters around Neptulon to weaken the Tidehunter, and, despite the best efforts of the champions, eventually stole away with the Elemental Lord. Thus ended the catastrophe of Vashj'ir, a waste of hundreds of Kvaldir, Naga, Alliance, and Hellscream troops, all to accomplish nothing. The champions, Taylor and Nazgrim, were fortunate to make it out of that calamity alive.